If you are preparing for birth, please don't skip this. God used these 5 powerful birth mistakes to teach me something extremely powerful that I want to share with you in this video. Now, I have given birth to 4 children, and by fixing these 5 mistakes, it allowed me to go into birth feeling confident and powerful in birthing 2 of my 4 babies in under 3 hours with no pain. So in this video, I'm going to cover the 5 mistakes that I made, which include fear, lack of rest, not trusting my instincts, focusing on the physical rather than the mental, and my environment. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Chanel. I am a mom of 4, doula, and believer, sharing faith-filled encouragement, simple systems, and my real journey of motherhood to help you find peace in every season of motherhood. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and join me on the journey. Now, I've given birth 4 times in multiple environments. 1 being the hospital, the 2nd time being in a birth center, and the last 2 times being at home, one of which was not even my actual home. And as someone who believes that every woman should have an empowering and beautiful birth experience, I want to make sure that if you are in the process of preparing for birth, that you do not repeat the same 5 mistakes that I made in my first birth, so that you can get ahead of having any sort of birth trauma and actually feel confident to give birth when the big day comes. Now, if you have not listened to the story of my first birth, I will give you a little snippet of it right now, and I will link any of my birth stories that you can listen to down below. You can watch all of them to see how changing and overcoming some of these mistakes actually changed the way that I birthed. But during my first pregnancy and birth experience, I was very set on preparing to have a natural birth in the hospital. I didn't know much about birthing outside of the hospital or midwives, so that was not even on my mind at the time. But I knew that I wanted to have a natural birth, and I believed that I could have a natural birth because I was physically strong and very confident in myself. And while those things are absolutely important, I did not do the necessary work to prepare myself for the experience that lied ahead. I allowed myself to get a lot of unsolicited advice and Google my way to having a natural birth. I took 1 hospital birth class. It was not helpful. And so I thought to myself, well, if this is what they're teaching in a hospital birth class, and I feel like I already know some of this stuff, I will definitely be fine. My husband doesn't really need to know that much because I'm the one giving birth, not him. He's just going to need to do what I tell him to do because I'm the one giving birth, and I'll know what to tell him to do. And that was completely wrong and false. And that was my first mistake. And so because I didn't realize that I even had fears related to birth until I was actually in labor, that led me to doing the wrong things in labor. I did not rest at all. I thought because I am physically fit and strong that I'm going to be able to just push my way through and I could just speed up this process. I don't need to rest because I'm strong. Wrong again. Because I was so confident in myself, so overconfident in my physical abilities, I did not trust what my mind was probably trying to tell me, which was girl, you ain't got this. And I was like, no, I got this. I followed and trusted my physical strength to get me to the finish line of birth. When indeed I should have been taking the time during my pregnancy and learning how to trust my instincts that I'm okay or something isn't right, or my mind is telling me that, oh, I actually am afraid of this and I actually don't really trust what my providers are saying, but I don't have enough evidence or knowledge to say why they are not right in this moment. And I didn't trust my instincts, so I just listened to what the doctor said. And because at the time I trusted my provider to do what was best for me, and he knew what my plan to have a natural birth was, I just kind of left my instinctual knowledge behind and said, I'm just going to follow this person. He or she's going to tell me what to do, and then I'm going to have the birth that I want because they're going to help me get there. Wrong again. So not trusting my instincts, thinking that I had all this physical strength, caused me to prepare for a physical birth and not a mental birth. And because I prioritized physical preparation over mental preparation, that then led me to emergency C-section. And if you have listened to me talk about my birth story at all, you will realize and understand that that was an unnecessary C-section, and it sucked. It caused a lot of birth trauma because I didn't have the knowledge, the tools, the skills, or even the supportive environment to help me accomplish the goal that I wanted. And so we're going to talk about all 5 of those mistakes and what I would do differently so that you can do them differently the first time and learn from my mistakes. So let's start with fear. A lot of us may feel like we don't have fear as it relates to birth. And if you're a first-time mom, I would just challenge you to really step back and think about if that is actually true for you. Even if it doesn't feel like a big fear, I didn't think I had a lot of fear going into birth because I'm like, I am physically fit, I am strong, I got this. But I did not realize that I was actually afraid of all of the things that I didn't prepare for, aka a C-section, because I was not going to have a C-section the first time around. I was like, girl, no. I'm strong, okay? I have no complications. I'm healthy. There's no reason why I would need to have a C-section. But what I didn't realize is that even though I didn't plan on having a C-section, I was actually afraid of having a C-section. And once that whole conversation about having a C-section came up, I actually realized in that moment, like, oh shoot, Chanel, you are afraid of having a C-section. Oh, you are actually afraid of the pain of birth. And you don't know what to do if you get into those circumstances or situations where you do feel pain. And now we're talking about a C-section. You don't know how to advocate for yourself. And so what I learned from that is that fear does not have to exist in birth. However, fear typically comes from a lack of knowledge and a lack of experience and a lack of support. And so what I did differently, and what I would encourage you to do this first time or second or third time around, is that you address your fears face on at the beginning of your pregnancy. Think about what even the smallest thing is. Maybe it's like, I am afraid that if my partner is working, that they're not going to make it back in time. Or maybe I'm afraid of the commute to the hospital. Whatever those things are, even if they're small, they need to be addressed, because if you don't address the fear, you cannot build knowledge to build confidence so that you don't have the fear when it comes to actually executing all of your plans on the day of labor. And that is what I did differently the second, third, and fourth time around. I took classes and learned from people who have done or helped moms do the things that I was trying to do. So I hired a doula. I took natural birthing classes at my birth center, not hospital birth classes, because what I learned was that my hospital birth class was really just teaching me to be a good patient, not necessarily helping me achieve the type of birth that I was hoping for. Because most of the women who go into hospitals are using interventions or pain management tools, which are there because they should be there for women who want to use them. But if you aren't somebody who wants to use them, it's important to understand them, but not that be your entire birth class. Like, there's so much that goes into birth. But if you don't know those things, it's really hard for you to even address the fears that you have with facts and be able to stand in confidence when something reminds you of that fear or looks like that fear, that you can actually speak back to that fear and say, actually, no, here's what I know is true. I'm afraid of tearing, but here's what the statistics say about tearing. I'm not that likely to tear. Or if I do tear, the recovery is smooth and the recovery is easy, and it's actually not as bad as people make it sound, or the idea of tearing. So addressing your fear face on at the beginning is something that I did differently, and I was able to walk, especially into my third and my fourth labors and into my second. There was obviously things that I was missing in my second, which, you can watch some other videos, but doing that helped me walk into my third and fourth labor feeling more powerful than the experience itself, but also learning how to surrender to the experience so that it did not have power over me. The second mistake that we talked about that I made was not resting. A lack of rest. And I don't know if anybody has told you this, but you should rest like a lot in labor. Like, you moving around, while it can help labor go by faster, can also exhaust you if you do it too soon. Active labor is when we start to get active. Early labor is not. And because I was this fit mom, I was like, let me just squat my way through the finish line. I'm not really feeling anything right now, but like, I'm going to move so I can get this thing going. Like, we can ramp this up. And I would just encourage you not to do that. If you're trying to like get things stronger, get things going, I would encourage you to not do that, because what may happen is you start squatting, get on your birth ball, doing all the things, and your body's like, okay, yeah, let's pick it up. Let's pick it up. And then the minute you stop moving and sit down, and it like stops. And now you sit down, but you've exhausted so much energy and your labor has like kind of stalled. And the only reason it was like going somewhere is because you were moving, but not because your body was actually ready to like go into full-fledged active labor. And so what I learned from that was that our bodies were designed very perfectly to let us know when we need to rest and when we need to move. And you do not have to squat, exercise, move your way to the finish line until your body tells you it's time to move. you can still achieve a really positive, quick birth while you're resting. And a lot of progress can be made. And that's what I learned the second and third and fourth time around was like, I'm going to just chill. I'm going to let my body do its thing. And at some point, it's going to tell me when it's time to get up and move around. And that was what I did. So I just chilled. I might have chilled on my birth ball. I might have taken a nap. And once my body was like, nope, it's go time, that was when I got up and moved. And then I was working with my body, not against it. And that allowed my labor to go a lot faster because I conserved my energy rather than thinking like rest is not going to help this thing progress. And that is actually like not true in most cases. But you have to understand the process of birth. You have to understand how this works, how your body works, and do your due diligence of learning about the process and trusting that God created your body to communicate with you when it's necessary. This is all under the circumstances, of course, that you don't have any sort of epidural or anything that is going to limit you from feeling what's going on in your body, and that you trust and surrender to the process. But it will. And if you trust your body enough, you will know what to do. Which leads me to point number 3, or mistake number 3, which is a lack of trusting my instincts. I was not trusting of my instincts, unfortunately, which is what led me to mistake number 2, which was not resting. And there were many things that I knew deep down in my gut that were not right about my labor. I should not have been sent straight to the hospital after my water broke because I had no signs of like meconium or anything like that. And I knew like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't have any contractions. My water broke. I don't have any contractions. I didn't know anything about being induced because I didn't do my due diligence to prepare. I also knew that like a C-section didn't feel like it was absolutely necessary at that point, but I had no knowledge to have a conversation to advocate for myself. And so because those instinctual things were going off for me, I didn't trust them because I didn't trust the fact that I didn't have knowledge enough to pair up or talk out loud or advocate with against my instincts with my providers. If there's one thing that I learned from that and what I did differently second, third, and fourth times around was that I need to know all of the knowledge that I can so that I can advocate for myself. And if something is coming up instinctually for me, I have to listen to that. And if I have the knowledge to understand this process from a logical perspective and I trust my instincts, that is a powerful combination. So that part for you preparing right now is if you are somebody who trusts yourself, lean into that, but have knowledge and tools to back that up. So if you need to have that conversation or your partner needs to have that conversation for you, you can advocate for yourself. If you don't trust your instincts and you're always second guessing yourself, this is the time to start learning how to trust yourself. And the first way you can do that is through knowledge. And understanding the process will help pair with your body to understand, oh, that's what's going on. Oh, that's normal. Oh, that's not normal. And I need to listen to that feeling or that thing that's happening in my body that I know is not normal because I've been taught by professionals who have done or helped other moms do what I'm trying to do, have a natural birth. And something's not right here. I'm going to trust my body on that. There have been so many women who have literally saved themselves and their babies because they listened to their bodies and said, no, something doesn't feel right. Something's not right about this. Even when their providers were like, no, you're fine. Everything looks good. Vitals are fine. But they knew something was wrong and they listened to their bodies and they listened to their instincts. Even if they didn't have the knowledge, they were like, no, something is not right. I need to go get a second opinion. And trusting those instincts allows you to lean into what your body is telling you, what your baby is telling you, so that you can be in control of the process. Mistake number 4 was preparing more physically than mentally. Birth is 80% mental and 20% physical. And y'all can fight me on this if you want to, but that's what it is. It may feel more physical if you prepare more physical than mental. But as somebody who has primarily prepared from the physical perspective over the mental in that first birth, I will tell you, when I prepare more mentally than physically in my other births, those births were so much easier. I didn't work out nearly as much in my second, third, and fourth pregnancy as I did with my first because obviously I had more kids to handle and to do stuff with. Like I was moving with my kids, but I was not working out like I was with my first pregnancy. And your body will follow your brain. And so I learned that because my physical abilities wore out. I relied on my own strength, physical strength in my first birth. And that was what caused me to like literally burn out. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then they offered the epidural and I took it. And the epidural is very powerful. Like if you want a medicated birth, it's very powerful. But if you want to feel in control of your body, that's not going to be the tool to use. It's not. There are things that you should know about the epidural that I teach in my Work Your Birth course in terms of like how to use the epidural properly and understanding the pros and the cons and the risks and the benefits of an epidural, which, that was the first cascaded, well, it wasn't the first, it was the second cascade of interventions that led me down towards my C-section and my baby not responding well to the epidural. But I learned from that, and I learned that no, this has to be first. And if I can get this right, then this will follow this, and my body can be more relaxed because my mind is relaxed. And I was able to do that much better in my second, third, and fourth births. And they were so much more positive, and they were so much more fun. And I felt so much more confident about them because I knew what was going on. I had the knowledge. I had the Lord on my side. And I also knew what to expect. So my mind was at ease because I had the knowledge to advocate for myself. And I also trusted that my body knew what it was supposed to do. And if it didn't do what it was supposed to do and something was off, my instincts were going to tell me that. So it's a cycle, but there's like steps to it. And you got to follow the steps so that you have all of the tools and the knowledge and the evidence and the confidence that you need in order to be prepared. So if you are listening to this and you're like, no, I got to work out all the time, you should be active. You should work out. You should treat your body with the care that it needs to prepare and to withstand a growing body and baby. But if you're not doing the mental work, your body is like not going to take you the whole way. Or if it does, it's going to be a hard labor, a hard physical labor. So keep that in mind when you are preparing. And lastly, the fifth mistake that I made was my environment. Not only was it my physical environment in terms of the hospital setting, which was not necessarily the best environment for me to be in for the type of birth that I was trying to experience, but it was also the people. Like the people on my team create an environment, a spiritual environment, to keep me in the right headspace. And so when you're thinking about your environment, and this is what I changed for future labors, I needed to make sure that I had a team that was going to help me establish the environment and follow the environment that I've set for the room, for the pace, for the vibe, for the energy that I wanted in that space, which was peace, worship, calm. And when I had my first birth in the hospital, I didn't really think there was anything wrong with it at the time, but I didn't realize how much interruption I would have, how many different people I was going to come into contact with, which, to be fair, all of my nurses were so sweet. My provider was great at the time. I didn't have the knowledge that I needed to be able to advocate for myself in that environment so that I could have the type of birth that I wanted rather than just following the lead of somebody who could give me advice that is more convenient for them. I believe that they had probably the best intentions, but it wasn't 100% necessary. And I didn't know that at the time. And so finding a space that feels comfortable and safe is crucial. And that was what I did afterwards. I found a space where I had a little bit more advocacy, where I had providers around me who like knew what I wanted and were going to help push me to that environment and would take me to the hospital if there was a medical need to do so. But we weren't going to rush there because that would like be more inconvenient for all of us to go to the hospital unless there was something that was truly medically wrong. I also made sure that my team, like the people I invited into the space, were going to be able to help me maintain the type of environment that I wanted, meaning calm, cool, collected, confident, safe, all of the things that we just talked about. And so thinking about the people that you invite into your environment are also crucial. My last birth, I had more of a community style birth where I invited some of my closest friends and family to be a part of it. And like each of those people played such a huge role for me having that experience. And I felt so safe around all of them. I wouldn't have probably done that the first time around because I didn't know what I know now. But if I knew what I know now, I would have invited close friends or just people who I felt like could protect the sacredness of birth. But most importantly, I would have invited Jesus into the room and into my birthing experience, like right from the start. And I learned that in birth number 2, and that led me to birth 3 and birth 4. And that was so powerful. And so regardless of whether you have 10 people in the room or you have just your partner, Jesus has to be there with you. And Jesus can be your birth coach. I had a doula, and my doula is wonderful, absolutely amazing. She's the GOAT. But God is where I found my peace in birth. I found my peace in Christ. He led me through the birthing experience, and he used my team in different ways to work through them to also maintain the environment. So it's so crucial that if you are wanting a peaceful birth, you seek out the one who provides peace, and that is Jesus. And I promise you, if you seek him in pregnancy and you learn how to hear his voice, you will hear it so clearly in labor. It's like not even funny. That is when I feel the closest to Jesus, which is why I want to give birth all the time. Because I'm like, God, you know, like we are like this when I'm giving birth. I've learned to find him that closely outside of birth, which is motherhood, because we need him all the time. If you can pay very close attention to your environment, that will be a crucial tool for you to have the birth that you desire and avoid making some of the mistakes that I made. Now, I know all of that was a lot, but I want to remind you that this does not have to be perfect. Your birth story, your birth plan does not have to be perfect in order for it to be powerful. But do learn from some of the mistakes that I made so that you can avoid these things when it comes to your birthday. And if you've already given birth, tell us one thing that you wish you would have done differently. And if this is your first time around, tell me down in the comments below, what is one thing that you want to feel during birth? And what one thing from this video are you thinking about working on the most or first so that you can prepare for the best day of your life? All right, y'all, that is it from me. I will see you on the next video.